Happy first Friday of the month. That means it's time for Ask the Dietitian. And I'm your dietitian, Lori Bumbaco. I work here at Cancer Wellness Center, and I get to do a lot of fun programs and also work with individuals one-on-one. If you're interested to learn more, just reach out to the center if you haven't already worked with me or attended a program. I hope you get to be able to take advantage of all the amazing programs and services offered here at the center. This is Ask the Dietitian. We choose a topic at the center and we allow our participants to ask me any question ahead of time. I put together a PowerPoint presentation with all of my answers to those great questions. And I'm going to share my screen now and do just that. Anytime anyone registers for my programs, you get access to the materials that I provide. I just need my host to allow me to share my screen, and then we'll get going. And so when you register for the program, even if you can't attend, when you register, you're able to gain access to the materials. So you get these PowerPoint slides. For Ask the Dietitian, I very often will get, will include some recipes. I need my host to allow me to share my screen, so we're working on it. I include recipes for this because I think sometimes that's the fun part of what I get to do as a dietitian here at the center. I get to allow or help people do what it is that we're asking you to do, right? In a practical way, hopefully a tasty and delicious way. And so I include recipes for this program specifically as well. I'm just going to put myself on pause because I need to reach out to the host to gain access to sharing because I want you to see what I have prepared for you. So just hold 1 second. We're going to wait for Lisa. So just hang on 1 second. Oh, I'm able to share now. Okay, so we're going to get rolling and I'm going to share my slides. And again, this is Ask the Dietitian, so thanks for being here. So if you weren't aware, let me just pull them up now. Hang on 1 second. If you weren't aware of this month's topic, it is, now you see what it is. It's all about snacks and snacking. I wonder what comes to your mind when I say the word snacks. Are they images like this? That's what comes to my mind. Snacks tend to be things that are highly processed, maybe a little less nutritious, and hopefully after today's presentation, you'll gain a little understanding, or at least the answers to your questions. You'll gain a little perspective about an opportunity to add some nutrition or to invite some nutrition to your diet through snacks. So on the agenda, as I shared, I'm going to list questions, provide answers, and then share those recipes at the end. So I thought it best to start first with snacks. You know, what are some healthy snacks to consider? And sometimes what happens is our participants ask similar questions. So I included the ones that were similar in this first group. All right, so you see them all here. How to choose healthy snacks. I'm looking for guidance. What are the healthiest snacks? What are the ones that pack all that good nutrition? Somebody's paying attention out there. I love that. What are the best healthy snacks? What is the most important thing to consider in a healthy snack? How to choose them? So let's talk about that after I give you some understanding of our current status of snacking. So snacking, as it turns out, when they do surveys of what Americans eat, people report that they don't plan their snacks. I know, guilty. I definitely don't plan all my snacks. And so it might be what they snack on, how much they snack on. It might be guided by a momentary cue rather than a deliberate decision. What happens when that's the case? I know you probably know the answer to that, but probably we're not eating the way we might intend to. Most of us do not leverage typical snacks as an opportunity to add nutrition, as I shared. Most of us favor sweet and salty choices for at least one part of our snacks, at least, right? It might be all of our snacks and all parts of our snacks. And surveys indicate also that our snacks become less healthy as the day goes on. I know I can also share in that sentiment. As the day goes on, something seems to happen towards the evening hours with my snack choices and the lack of nutrition, right? So interesting opportunities here. Most of us, so more than 60% of us, snack on something sweet and savory. So something like cookies, brownies, these are just examples, tortilla chips, ice cream, crackers. Some of us snack on fruit. So when it comes to eating fruit, we know that's part of a cancer protective diet. And it's great that snacks could give us that opportunity to choose something nutritious. 16% of us snack on nuts and seeds. Most of us drink, water or coffee or tea with a snack. But 17% of us drink a sugar sweetened beverage. Research suggests that we eat about 20, let's just split the middle here, about 21% of our total calories from a snack within the day. So, and the other concerning consideration to make here is that those calories contribute very little nutrition. So on average, for most people, that's about a 400 or 500 calorie snack. So that's significant if you think about it, and maybe a potential missed opportunity again to add some nutrition. So what are healthy snacks? Oops, sorry about that. So snacks can contribute nutrition to our diet, and it all depends, right? So when I get asked that question, what is a healthy snack? I'm giving you a general overview, but keep in mind your goals might be different than the next person, right? So your goals might be to add more fiber. Your goals might be to eat for bone health. So we might want to look towards calcium as an inclusion in your healthy snack, right? So we're going to define that differently. But today, for the sake of this general presentation, I'm just going to give you an overview. So for most of us, it seems that snacks, in my opinion, can be an opportunity to include important nutrients, omega-3 fats, fiber, potassium, magnesium, and calcium. Why those, do I say? Well, it's because they're the ones we need the most, and we're not eating them basically at all, right? We need to fill that gap. The most nutritious snacks, ideally, we might want to include minimally processed and maybe mostly plant choices. They tend to be the most nutrient dense. And we know that that's a cancer protective diet, a minimally processed whole food plant-based diet. It doesn't mean vegan or vegetarian. It just means sort of vegetarian once in a while. That's what a plant-based diet and minimally processed one means. Ideally, the choices within a snack might, I don't want to say the word should, might contain a combination of fiber and protein and healthy fats, or at least a combination of more than one of those. So it might be high fiber, high healthy fat, high fiber, high protein. You get the point. But we're going to try and combine things here. More specifically, according to research, our experts define this because some of the people I work with want numbers. So we might look towards more than 3 grams of fiber. That means it's a good source of fiber, and more than 5 grams of protein. When we do this, not only helps fill our fiber gap, which we are vastly short of. Only 1 out of 10 of us eats recommended amounts of fiber. But when we eat more fiber, we tend to eat more nutrition because fiber is found in foods that are minimally processed and tend to be plant foods. So that's our fruits, our vegetables, our whole grains, our beans, our lentils. Those foods also, besides having fiber, have a ton of nutrients. So this is why if we typically tend to look towards fiber, we're going to get more nutrition. When we add protein to the snack, this also adds a great component of satisfaction. So it sort of satisfies our hunger at the same time. So here's an example, and I just, or more than one example, but here's sort of the way to kind of conceptualize this. So the specs for a healthy snack would include a protein, a fiber, and a healthy fat, or a combination of at least more than one of these, right? So maybe it's a hard-boiled egg with some cucumber slices and some avocado slices, or maybe it's some other fresh vegetables with some hummus, or maybe it's a Greek yogurt with some ground flax seeds and some fruit on top. There are some really good examples just off the top of my head. They're not packaged, not most of them, so I'm going to go into that a little further in just a moment. We probably have to do a little bit of work to prepare some of these snacks for ourselves. That's the distinction here I find. A healthy snack might be one that requires a little bit of prep. not just simply opening a bag or a box, right, at the same time. So we'll dive deeper, but hopefully that satisfies sort of the overall idea of how to go about choosing a healthy snack. So next set of questions, what are some good portable choices that are filling? How to prepare them so that I have them on hand when I need them? Which ones are good for energy? You know, it's hard if I'm running errands. What won't melt in the car? Well, we're no longer, I don't know if anyone went outside today, but I'm like, goodbye warm weather as of today. So what can also be portable in the car as well, and maybe non-perishable? So I think when it comes to portable snacks that supply energy, I think of things that two options. One's that we can make ourselves and bring with us, and then also convenient options. So let's start first with the ones that we can bring on our own. So I don't know about anyone else, but fresh fruit is like the most convenient and easy and portable, nutritious option that I can think of. That with some nuts, right? Well, and you get to mix and match here. Maybe you're thinking seasonality and you want an apple with some walnuts, or apple and pecans, or a pear with some almonds. Like, the sky's the limit here. You can mix and match and keep it interesting, but also satisfying that condition of a lot of fiber plus some protein and healthy fats by doing that combination right there. You could make your own trail mix with some air pop popcorn, nuts, and some freeze-dried fruit. Not a lot of, actually a lot of fiber here I'm seeing, and again, a lot of protein and healthy fats. And the combinations are endless here in this idea. Homemade granola bars are really great. I'm supplying you with an idea of making your own. You're going to get that if you register for this program. But if you search online, there's a lot of options to choose from here as well. And then some roasted beans. So I am a huge fan of roasted beans, especially if you're someone who likes a little crunch. And there's versatility here as well. You can roast edamame, you can roast chickpeas, you can add everything bagel seasoning to it. You can add some paprika and cayenne. I mean, the sky's the limit here. So this gives you some ideas of portable, nutritious options. But again, we could look towards convenient choices as well. So there are some nut butter packs that like literally are in just a tearaway pack. I've done it when I've flown, and just a piece of fruit. And you know, you can just literally take that nut butter pack. Some have added protein to them, and they're super they're small, so they like fit in your purse or in your bag. Edamame in the pod, I love to get frozen edamame and just put it in a container, and it defrosts and it's ready to be eaten cold, if that's something that you enjoy, or if you could pop it in the microwave where you are. Jerky, a lot of dietitians are fans of jerky, but there is such a thing as vegan jerky as well that is quite nutritious and high in protein. And I also love the idea of tuna or chicken in water. And in those pouches, if you have a spoon with you, if you're really looking for something high protein, it's super easy to find and to carry and have on hand with you. Hopefully you agree, those might be some good choices. Now, how do we prepare snacks so that they're convenient for us? Well, I think as it relates to meal planning and meal prepping, also think about snack planning and snack prepping, right? Because this is a really good opportunity here. So once or twice a week, could you set aside a consistent hour? So is it Sunday morning? Is it Sunday night? Is it Wednesday night? Is it whatever? You get to decide, right? And you're going to pre-prep or literally prepare all your snacks and have them ready to go. So when you're pre-prepping or prepping, you could chop your veggies, you can roast your beans, you can air pop your popcorn, you can make hummus if you'd like, or buy or set aside store-bought hummus. You can hard boil your eggs, or you can buy them that way. Make a batch of granola bars, make some yogurt or cottage cheese and fruit parfaits, make some overnight oats because those are travel friendly as well. Some of these things you might be thinking, oh, but overnight oats are for breakfast. Well, why couldn't you have that for a snack, right? And maybe it just looks like a smaller portion, because that's sometimes what snacks are. And I'm going to talk about that in the next set of questions. But this is where we can borrow ideas to get some great nutrition in a portable way as well. You're going to set these aside in individual servings, whatever containers you choose, and designate a snack zone. I love this idea. I'm going to start implementing this at my own home. We sort of already have a snack zone, but it could be improved upon in terms of the nutrition. And you can have one in your pantry, you can have one in your fridge, And that's your location. That's where you like load up on things that are nutritious and portable and convenient for you. Think about portion size. That really helps us overeat, especially for some of those highly processed foods that come in boxes and bags. If we even just take some whole grain crackers out of a bag or out of a box and put them into a single serve container, we're probably just going to eat that amount, right? So I think that's a great way of helping ourselves to control portions as well. All right, we're going to keep moving. So this next set of questions, I lumped them together because they were kind of specific related to food. So cookies, chocolate, and chips. I guess we're asking, are they healthy snacks? I'm not sure what the question is here. Is Chobani Greek yogurt a good snack? I like chickpeas in a salad, so do I. Yum. What else can you do with them? I'm so glad that question was asked. Let's start with the first one. So cookies, chocolate, and chips. I'm gonna not talk about chips today because I think of chips as just they're a snack. You know, they're highly processed. They're salty. They probably use a little bit of fat in making them, right? So we just want to control portions and maybe swap them out for some other opportunities. But I thought I'd use this chance to talk about cookies and chocolate specifically because it's a chance to talk about sugars. So the Institute of Medicine, they're the ones who kind of set the guidelines based on evidence, on the evidence and on science. They're the ones that tell us how much of what to eat based on what they know from research. We don't really have a formal number from them about added sugars. Maybe it's time, right? Maybe we need to knock on their door and say, hey, give us some more formal guidance here. So we lean on the other experts for that. And most advise internationally, especially, that we have less than 6% of our total calories from added sugar. Here, some experts here in our country advise less than 10%. So we can use that range, okay? So what does that really mean? A dietitian knows, and a dietitian can help you. But if you want to dive deeper into numbers, that is no more than 100 calories and no more than 150 calories per day for men and women, respectively, which is equal to no more than 25 grams or no more than 36 grams of added sugar per day. Now, one of the greatest public health campaigns came out in 2018, where now food companies are required by law to label the added sugars in their product per serving. So you can start to do the math for yourself and start to look at labels. I really encourage that. It just raises your awareness. Pay attention to the number of grams. That's all you have to do. And if your target is 25, then you're looking to try to stay below that as much as possible. It might not always happen, but if that's generally what's happening, then you're doing a great job. You may set a lower goal for yourself, and maybe you're thinking, I'm going to do 20 grams a day. And here's where there's opportunities. Maybe a yogurt that you're using, which I'm going to explain next, has 9 grams, but you find one that you like that has 4 grams. Right there, you just dropped your added sugar intake. All right, and that's really the best guidance I can give with that. Staying within that budget allows for you to decide, you know, I really like this cookie or cookies, and it gives me 20 grams total. And that's my added sugar for the day. So I'm going to enjoy it. And I'm a huge proponent of that because restrictions usually backfire on us. And so this is why not only do we advise to allow ourselves some of these less nutritious foods, but also because the science says that they're totally permissible. And I don't need to be the one to give you permission, but they're totally permissible in a healthy diet because it's such a low amount of our calories that all of those other calories we're consuming are nutritious. And that's what's going to support our health. Okay, hopefully that is helpful. So let's turn towards those, the Chobani yogurt specifically. I was thinking, which Chobani yogurt is this question referring to? Is this question asking about the blended yogurt, which has 8 grams of added sugar? Is it referring to the flip cup, which were very popular in my home not too long ago? 12 grams in this particular choice. I'm thinking of the seasons with the pumpkin harvest. So 12 grams of added sugar here in this choice. And then there's one, and this isn't seasonal, but a close enough, of vanilla and cinnamon for 5 grams of added sugar. Which one do you think the dietitian's going to recommend? Now, here's the thing. If you love that flip cup and you're like, this is my dessert, go for it, right? It's 12 grams out of your 25 per day. So it may work for you. But you could also look at this hint of sugar, which may satisfy you and be sweet enough. If you haven't already chosen that, I do like to recommend this particular yogurt for people that are enjoying yogurt regularly. Now, you can add more fiber to this, right? So here's an opportunity. So great choice, this Chobani less sugar, great choice as is because it's less sugar added to it. Good source of protein. I believe this one is fat-free. But you could add more to it. You can add fiber by adding some nuts or seeds or fresh fruit. And you're going to add even more nutrition plus that fiber, right? So, and I also like to mix and match textures as well. So you can use this less sugar, or you can use plain yogurt, which some people reset their palate and they're able to do that. And they put a little something in that plain yogurt, maybe a little bit of honey, because that little bit of honey is still less than 5 grams that's found in the low sugar yogurt. So there's lots of opportunities and lots of things to explore. I want you to decide based on what you agree you can and you want to do. There's always trade-offs. So again, if you're feeling like, I don't want to sacrifice here on my yogurt, I like this one that has 12 grams and I want to stick to it. That's great. So we'll look to reduce your added sugar from other sources. Okay. Otherwise, hopefully those are some good options for you. And just because apparently I liked charts in this month's Ask the Dietitian, this is another example of how to kind of make some variations. And I like to recommend like just buying a big tub of plain Greek yogurt, and then you can mix and match. And the sky's the limit when you do that, because you can go sweet with some frozen choices or some fresh fruit, especially seasonal, and you can mix and match different nuts and seeds or butter versions of them. Or you can go savory with it and you can put some cucumbers and tomatoes or herbs in your Greek yogurt. It's possible, it's been done. I, for a while, have used canned pumpkin puree, or even they sell it in the boxes as well. And mixing that with some plain Greek yogurt as well as some cinnamon or nutmeg, and which is a nice seasonal option, maybe topping it with some pecans. And that is really satisfying, giving a lot of great nutrition and not getting the extra sugars that you might be wanting to minimize. And I know there were some questions in the chat, so we'll come back to that at the end. Okay, so chickpeas. Oh, I love that someone asked this question. My mind goes to 2 options as chickpeas. So you could roast them, you can do it yourself. Now at the end, I'm going to give you an example of ones that we can buy already roasted that are so delicious and super portable, but you can roast them yourself. And I included a recipe for those who registered, you'll get that. Or you can mash them, which I've done this too. And I've done this as like a lunch, but you can mash this and have a smaller portion of it. So you can mash it with hummus or Dijon mustard, maybe some avocado. You see what I'm doing there? I'm adding some healthy fats. And then you could even add some herbs or some spices to that. You could mash it and then mix in some other cut up vegetables, like again, cucumbers, celery, carrots. And you could have this, it certainly works as a meal, right? Like sort of like a mock tuna fish, but you can have a small portion of it and carry it with you or have it at home as a little snack. Love that idea. It definitely fits the bill in terms of fiber, protein, and maybe potentially some healthy fats in there. Okay, moving on. I love these questions too. My friend told me it was bad to eat grapes because of sugar. Is there a danger from eating too much fruit or fruit juice? If you absolutely have to eat a salty, crunchy packaged snack, what are the least bad options? I love that. All right, so grapes, do they have too much sugar? I get asked this question a lot. Is fruit okay to eat because it has sugar in it? We want to definitely define what is too much, and that's done one-on-one in a consult with a dietitian. For most people that I work with, a couple, 2 up to maybe 4 servings of fruit per day makes the most sense. Now, some of our fruit choices have a little bit more sugar in them, but relatively speaking, it's harmless because the fruit itself, and I'm going to explain this in a moment, but the fruit itself is part of a cancer protective diet. And even someone who has diabetes or some insulin resistance where they're concerned about their blood sugars, we advocate the inclusion of some high fiber carbohydrates that have natural sugars in them, and fruit is a really good example. So fruit has natural sugars, and these natural sugars are found in all fruit. Some have a little bit more than others, and grapes are on that list. Bananas are another good example of having a little bit more natural sugar. They also have more than just this natural sugar. They have fiber, they have vitamins, minerals, and these really important cancer-fighting compounds called phytochemicals. And when we eat fruit, and when we eat it in about 2 to 4 servings per day, this is associated with a lot of health benefits, including cancer protection. So I absolutely, and grapes are delicious, aren't they? So I advocate that we enjoy them, right? And we don't worry about the natural sugars that are inside them. They're supposed to be there. They're meant to be there. Now, added sugars, on the other hand, they're a different story. So they're found in our sodas and other sweet drinks like iced tea, sports drinks even surprisingly can really rank highly for the amount of sugars that they add, but also our dessert foods. So frozen dairy, cookies, candies, the list goes on and on. Foods that have and drinks that have added sugars tend to have less nutrition. So they tend to not contain fiber unless it's added. They tend not to have vitamins, minerals. They certainly don't have phytochemicals, again, unless it's added. And usually when we add something just like sugars to a food, it's sort of loses its benefit, I would say, right? And so when we find in the research that people that consume more added sugars compared to people who consume less, this is associated with the risk for weight gain, obesity, and other health conditions. We do know that obesity is associated with the risk for 13 different cancer types at this moment. And that's another Ask the Dietitian topic, maybe next year. We'll have to come back to that one. But that's the distinction. So grapes certainly are okay to consume. And I would say have it in sensible amounts. You know, you might not want to buy like 2 big bunches of it and have that in one sitting, right? Which could happen. I think I've done that before. So just think about portion size and just relative to your hunger levels and not be concerned about the natural sugars that are present in grapes or any other fruit for that matter. Now, what about fruit juice? Fruit juice, even if it may have 100% juice, it loses its fiber. And when it also may lose some vitamins, minerals, and phytochemicals in the process because they tend to heat it at a really high temperature, which causes the nutrient loss from the original package. This may make it slightly less nutritious than fresh fruit. Our body digests and metabolizes fruit juice differently than fresh fruit. It takes longer to chew and digest fresh fruit compared to juice. So what does that do? Because of that, that completely changes the way we digest and metabolize what's in it. So the fiber in fresh fruit, when we eat it, it takes longer, and the fiber itself takes longer for us to digest. And that's why it's great for satisfying our hunger. Fiber is really great for that. And it also helps control our blood sugar. So it also satisfies us for time, right? And it results in this slowed or delayed conversion of those natural sugars into our blood sugars after all is said and done with that whole process. So we tend to advise drinking less fruit juice and eating more fresh fruit. Drinking fruit juice results in a quicker and higher rise of blood sugars. And if you know of, or you yourself have diabetes, that's sort of a rule of thumb. If you're having if your blood sugar goes low, what's the thing you do? You reach for some fruit juice because it does such a great job of picking it back up right away, even something like orange juice. So imagine your blood sugars are normal level or maybe slightly high and you're drinking that fruit juice. It's really going to spike it up even higher. Okay, so we prefer fresh fruit over fruit juice. Now, what about crunchy, salty, least bad packaged snacks? I love this question. So there are some options, and this may or may not be like on my shopping list or in my pantry at home. But Rhythm makes a great line of products. Trader Joe's is known to have some good options as well of some vegetables that are literally just baked or freeze dried. They may be a little salty, so we might want to just double check those numbers as part of your overall healthy diet. But things like okra, I never eat okra, but freeze dried, I will. And I have, and I do regularly. So again, it's like an opportunity here for some of these products. I mentioned roasting your own beans, but there are products like Vienna, and this is called the Good Bean. These are fava beans. Again, when do I ever eat fava beans? Right? But here they are in a package for me, 7 grams of protein in the serving. You can see right on the front. Of course, they brag about that. And they're really tasty, they're crunchy, and it's high in fiber besides that protein that they add. Nuts and seeds, I think nuts, and I shared this at the beginning, they're such a great snack. I don't always add nuts or seeds to a meal, so it's a great opportunity for me to find room for it in my day. And these cocoa roasted almonds, if you haven't tried them, I find them delicious. I think a lot of people I work with do enjoy them as well. They happen to be in 100-calorie packs, which some people really appreciate because they're hard to control how much of them you could possibly eat. But it's interesting, you'll find that little pack is so satisfying, and you might enjoy them and savor them as much as I do. And then popcorn. So Quinn makes a nice line of products too. This particular product is microwavable, but they've sort of removed all of those concerning chemicals that are inside those microwave bags. So if you're not popping your own on the stovetop and you're looking for something that's packaged and easy and ready to go, that could be an option for you too. It's really yummy. Okay. How to transform snacks and snacking into mini meals. I'm hoping I can help with this. So that I translated this question right. So remember what I shared, most snacks are unintentional and not planned. So if you just plan snacks, you probably can already automatically turn your snack into sort of a mini meal. And I love that concept of like, it's a mini meal. It's just as balanced and nutritious as a meal might be. So think about minimally processed choices. We're combining those high fiber carbohydrates, protein, and a healthy fat. They can help fill gaps, right? So for example, I don't do a lot of dairy at my meals, but Greek yogurt is something that's really easy and portable and lots of options, but it sort of could be a breakfast, right? If I did yogurt with some fruit and nuts, but that's a great option for a mini meal, right? Or a little snack. Veggies and hummus, beans, and I love soup, a bean soup or a bean and veggie soup. That's sort of like, could be a meal, but it also could be a mini meal. And it really just has to do with the portion size. So speaking of that, just think about your meals and thinking of smaller portions. So here are some other ideas or other ways that you can transform your mini meals into sort of a snack, or your snacks into a mini meal, right? So I think of sandwiches like right off the bat, or toast. So toast for breakfast. Maybe you're having toast and a bowl of oatmeal, or toast and an egg. Maybe you could have just one slice of toast or a half a slice of toast for a mini meal. I think of English muffins. There's whole wheat English muffins that are high in fiber, a little bit of protein in there too. And it's, maybe you have half of one instead of the whole English muffin. Or pita. The list goes on and on. You see what I'm doing here, but like a whole wheat wrap with some vegetables and some egg or hummus. Maybe you just have half of that. And that's where it's sort of like taking that meal conceptually and right, just having a third or a half of that meal. And that's how you can turn that into snacks or sorry, mini meals. Hopefully that helps. Okay, why do I seem to snack more once I start? Love this question. How do I stop the big snack when I come home from work? It's like my reward for the day. I can relate to that. So why is it hard to stop? I think this was if it wasn't the last Ask the Dietitian, it was earlier in the year. So I would say investigate what you're snacking on if you're having a hard time stopping once you start. Because hyper palatable foods, that's like our extra sweet, extra salty, extra crunchy, extra fatty, extra creamy, extra, all of it, combinations of extras. They're designed and manufactured in a way that sort of hijack our ability to recognize that we don't need it because we're not hungry and this is so delicious, I need more of it, right? They just hijack that system, right? So we're like left powerless. So it's and this is what I just explained. They taste extra. They make us feel even more happy and satisfied. And it's like pleasure. It's this reward system that we're getting. And it's pretty intense. So we might want to just start by controlling those hyper palatable foods or eliminating them altogether, right? Because once we start, we almost can't stop. We have like no control over it, right? So if we learn to reset our palate and learn that, hey, am I really hungry for this? do I really need this? And we use hunger scales for that. So if you could rate your hunger on a scale of 1 to 10, you can decide, do I really need food? Is this the time to eat or not? Or maybe I take a few bites and I'm good because I'm done with that. That's where you can navigate and find some help. I love the idea of resetting the palate with things that are less hyper palatable. We tend to and investigate that for yourself, or reflect on foods that you find you have some control over how much. And if you're like, yeah, I do find that I only eat this amount and I move on, there's something about what it is that you're eating. It's probably not hyper palatable. It's probably not easy to eat. It's probably not accessible, right? Like, so a lot of those variables could help play into what's happening for you. How to stop the big snacks. This is a little bit more in line with what I just answered. So when we come home from work or any other situation, it doesn't have to be this. If we're finding that it's a habit, right? It's just what we do. We want to first identify the trigger. So here, when you come home from work, you're probably even driving home and you're thinking snack, right? It's the trigger. That's your trigger. I'm done with work. Note what your routine is, right? So you can even write it down if you need to. This is what I do. And I do it automatically, right? So as soon as you note it, it becomes conscious and you raise awareness around it. And then you can recognize the reward for that habit. It's hyper palatable. It tastes really good. Well, that's why you're doing it, right? So of course you're going to want to do. Our brains are wired that way. We do what we like, right? So we can disrupt this whole thing and we can replace the habit. So we can either avoid the trigger or cue. Now that's not so easy to do, but maybe when you come home from work, you don't go right to the kitchen. Maybe you put something else in your way, like your walking shoes, so that you go for a walk before you even get into the door. Maybe you don't even buy the snacks. They're not even in the environment, right? So that trigger is now gone or it's replaced with something else. And then substitute the routine you could possibly do. So you could pack a snack, eat it before you drive home, not while you're driving, because that would be mindless eating and maybe reckless driving. Or a plan around it. Say, I'm going to go home and I'm going to have this snack instead. And you're going to eat that healthy, intentional snack. Remember, planned. Or if you're not hungry, because that could be possible here, try a different activity. You probably do want to de-stress and decompress, and you deserve that for yourself. But maybe food isn't the answer. It may be something else like meditation or movement, which we know are great, are like the cure-alls for stress, right? So those things might be helpful instead. And then when you do that, I want you to reward yourself for it. So note how it feels good to have changed a habit. Be really obvious about it. Be your own cheerleader, because our brains they need to know that so that it will repeat itself, right? Or reward the actual change, buy new walking shoes, buy, a new meditation book, buy a new journal that you can reflect on. And that hopefully you feel a reward and satisfaction and wanting to do it again and continue to repeat that. Okay, I'm going to keep moving. What are some nutritious, easy to digest snacks that are gentle on digestion and safe for cancer patients? So there's lots of side effects. I do this in my other clinical work at Cala Cancer Center, and this is where working with a dietitian is very important. And I would encourage that for anyone who's on active treatment, especially and dealing with some of these side effects. So right off the top of my head, I think of things that are smooth and bland. If they're smooth and bland, they're probably safe to eat if you're worried about immunocompromise. So these come to mind because they pack a lot of nutrition and they could be served in small portions. They can be convenient as well, but smoothies, they can be a source of protein with some fruit, maybe even a handful of baby spinach in there. Blended soups, which are a savory cousin to a sweet smoothie, and blending them, that way they digest easier. Overnight oats, they can be consumed cold, which is great for nausea. Usually we don't like hot things because the smell may trigger nausea. Or if you don't like them cold and you can tolerate them, you can certainly warm them up. hard-boiled egg, mashing that with some avocado, great for digestion, high protein. I think of scrambled tofu and a little saute. That could be consumed as a snack, or you can make it ahead, pull it out of the fridge, and just enjoy that as is. A little toast, and the sky's the limit with a whole wheat toast, or if you're not tolerating whole wheat, you certainly can downgrade to a more lower fiber option. Pumpkin puree, or even like a little smear of hummus, or peanut butter or almond butter with a little bit of honey. That's such a great snack, right? And but what we did is we took the fiber out of it a little bit so it's easier to digest. Instant oats with peanut butter, yogurt, or an alternative to dairy, and with some soft fruits. If that doesn't inspire you, you might also want to check out this website. It's called Cook for Your Life, and it's really great for anybody. But they have a filter where you can find recipes, and there's a handful of recipes that are related to a health issue. So if you're dealing with nausea, if you're dealing with diarrhea, you can filter their recipes to find ones that are appropriate. Okay, so that might be a good resource. Okay, rounding out with a few more slides here. Hi, Lori. Well, hello, whoever submitted this. We are the best. What are the best snacks for someone who is diabetic and also a cancer survivor? Another great opportunity to work with a dietitian, because this is layering on more than one objective, right? And so dietitians are great at prioritizing and helping you streamline to find the targets that you're looking for. So some snacks have 0 carbs. You might know them. So a handful of nuts, a hard-boiled egg, cottage cheese, even cheese. These are great. They're nutritious. They don't have carbohydrates. Portable, for the most part. Easy, convenient, nutritious. Check, check, check. Otherwise, if you're having a carbohydrate, I want you to just apply that rule of thumb that I shared earlier. We're going to try to combine a protein and or a fat when we're having that carbohydrate. So nuts and nut butter with fruit, or whole wheat crackers. Whole wheat toast with the mashed avocado, maybe an egg on top. Cottage cheese, that's our protein. Maybe a little bit of fat in there with some fresh fruit. So what we're doing is we're not just having the carbohydrate by itself, okay? Now, some snacks naturally contain both. So a low-fat, low-sugar yogurt does have a little bit of natural sugars and carbohydrates, but then it also has protein and maybe potentially fat. And then roasted beans are a really good example. It's got protein, maybe some fat because of how it was prepared. It's got fiber, and it's got some carbohydrates. So really great snacks here listed. But if that's not enough, here are some other options. And you'll get these slides so you can see this for yourself. I want to encourage you to look at fiber, right? So it says, for example, like tortilla chips, I'd love for you to do instead something like whole wheat crackers, or you might see like mini bagels or a pita pocket. We're looking for whole wheat choices. So 3 grams or more of fiber per serving, okay? So that might be helpful for you too. These are great for anybody, right? Blood sugars or not, these are great options. Okay, this is the last question. I have a 94-year-old relative I am caregiving for. He has teeth, but he's gravitating towards unhealthy snacks. What can I feed him mid-morning and mid-afternoon? Great question. You can apply any of the information that I shared earlier, but I thought I would add this, that, at that age, does what he or she eat, is that contributing to health concerns? Probably not at this point, to be honest, because unless someone has diabetes, I don't really worry too much about the snacks or the nutrition. Hopefully that's being managed probably through medication. And sometimes this is when, as a dietitian, I like to gently remind everyone that we eat for different reasons, and we certainly can eat for nutrition. But sometimes we combine that with pleasure, and sometimes food is pleasure, and sometimes, especially at later in life, we may really be thinking about how to optimize our quality of life, and that food can help support that and help improve quality of life, right? So I just want to encourage that as well. But if that's not good enough, and the person you're caregiving does want some more nutritious options, these come to mind. I was thinking of things that are sort of like satisfying sweet but are nutritious at the same time. So banana and ice cream is a thing. If you haven't heard of it, I included one example in the recipes, but making breads or muffins that have some higher fiber and natural sugars by using applesauce or even really ripe bananas because they're naturally sweet. Smoothies are great, for example, popcorn, and maybe just changing up the spices. And you can air pop popcorn, high in fiber. It's a great option. Rice cakes or whole wheat crackers, again, with some nut butter and fruit. Dates with almond butter, if he's able to chew that or she. Really very satisfying and nutritious at the same time. But as I shared, I think as I am in practice this long, I find that everyone eats for different reasons. And I always respect someone's desire to control what it is that they're eating and to have some say in what it is that they're eating. And so, because so much is out of our control, right? So, just empowering that decision and respecting that right is sometimes a really important component of relationship, of building a relationship as well. So, hopefully, that is helpful. And I know we're just on time, so I'm going to share a little sneak peek of the recipes that I'm going to share with the group. So I promised some banana ice cream, but I made these flax meal crackers not too long ago, and they're delicious, really easy to do. Granola bars, roasted beans, all really good. I'm going to stop my share. I hope you join us next time in October. I believe our topic then is on processed foods. I could be wrong. I'm going to stop my share here. You're going to check the calendar and hopefully join me next time in October. And I know we had some things in the chat.